Arcane Season 2.
Arcane.
Yep. As usual, we will do a non-spoiler section at the top and then dive into spoilers after that. But Arcane, created by Christian Link and Alex Yee, and produced by French animation studio Fortiche and Riot Games, Arcane Season 2 picks up literal moments after the cliffhanger ending of Season 1 and explores the fallout of Jinx's attack on the Council of Piltover and how that affects her sister, Vi, Piltover enforcer Caitlyn, and all of the other characters of the first season. Once again, Arcane stars Haley Steinfeld, Ella Purnell, Katie Lung, Kevin Alejandro, Harry Lloyd, Reed Shannon, and many, many more. Niles, what are your initial thoughts on Arcane Season 2?
Well, first, I just want to plug our 28th episode where we talked about Season 1 of Arcane. If you haven't already listened to it, I encourage you all to go do that because that was a really fun conversation from 2021, which is crazy to think about. that was 2021, 3 years ago. Four at this point. Now it's 2025. But yeah, like it's like you said, it's a continuation from Season 1, and this is such a fun continuation from the Season 1 story. Like, yeah, it picks up literally moments afterwards, and this season went in directions I was not expecting. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, honestly. Because there was just so much in the air, so many different like characters, so many plot lines, and like the main one that I was really obsessed with was Jinx and Vi. What was going to happen there? That was I think the heart of Season 1, and I really was interested to see where that was going to go. But I think the level of storytelling is just about the same quality that it was from the previous season, and the animation alone is just breathtaking. It is incredible. Everything feels so naturally fluid. It is so creative. It's like they did such a good job frame by frame. There's so many tiny little details which we will get into, and I'm coming at this like we said, after a 4-year hiatus, and I'm glad the creators took their time with this season, and it absolutely shows. But after 4 years, there's a lot of details that just like bloop, 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 went out of my head. So it was a little bit of a tough like restart for me getting back into it. But after I just watched that recap, I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. I'm ready to jump back in. If I rewatched Season 1 before the season came out, it probably would have hit a lot harder this time. So I should have made time to do that. But yeah, this is I love this season. The show in general is so incredible,
Yeah.
What are some of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree. This, to me, was an excellent continuation of the story from the first season, and it manages to more or less cap off the story in a satisfying way. I guess we should stay right off the top. Like, Season 2 is the final season of Arcane. It is not meant to be the final League of Legends show, which we'll talk about more in spoilers. But, I was all on board the hype train for this. So unlike you, I did go back and rewatch Season 1 in the lead up, which I think you're right. It increased my enjoyment of it because I'd also forgotten some things, here and there. It happens. We watched this a long time ago. And since then, because it just became like a hyper fixation of mine the last couple months, like after the season ended, I watched the whole fucking thing again, the entire show front to back. I mean, like, in part because I was obsessed with it, but also I wanted to keep it fresh. So this episode is good because the show ended a while ago. And plug for me, as of recording, last night I released a video about Arcane on my YouTube channel, D-Day Movies, talking about some of the themes and what the show is trying to say about healing and happiness and self-care through the lens of its characters. So check that out if you'd like. The video is fucking bombing, so any love it could get would be appreciated. It took a lot.
Yeah, people go check it out. Dylan's very thoughtful as a content creator, and I'm not just saying that because we have a podcast together. I think you're very intentional with your words and your commentary, and I think you're also very insightful as well. So I would recommend checking out that video and a lot of his other videos too. So
thank you.
Definitely go watch those.
Right back at you. But I also found in doing so, like having seen season 2, it informs a lot of season 1 as well, because I think the story was conceived together. So it was really nice to see, going back to season 1, how like I thought about some of the characters differently, rewatching it than I did the first time. And again, reiterating what you said, but the animation remains truly incredible throughout this. Like,
Amazing.
really push themselves in both technique and style in ways that I think exceed even the first season. Like, if you remember back in season 1, there's the fight between Echo and Jinx on the bridge, and that was one of the more experimental scenes from season 1. And in this season, we get several quote unquote music video sections in the vein of that fight, and I really felt like Fortiche took the opportunity in every one of these to really experiment with different styles to great effect.
Yeah, they took a lot of like creative liberties, like lots of risks, I think, with just leaning into that aesthetic and the music video kind of style to it, and I really appreciated that. Like, it is such a cool form of storytelling, and like you don't even need dialogue during those scenes because they just communicate so much visually, and it just is so fluid. Music pairs with it so well. Like, without going into too much spoilers, I think just like one of the first ones that comes to mind is just like the raids of the underground. Like that one is just like, it's a montage of them raiding the underground. It's like so cool. It's just like 2 minutes long. It's breathtaking.
Yeah, and I think if I'm remembering this right, because while I was like waiting for the next batches of episodes to drop, I was just trying to like feed myself something. So I went back and watched. They did a whole sort of making of docu-series about the first season. And if I understand the relationship right, like Studio Fortiche and Riot Games have worked together for a very long time on League of Legends stuff. And I think Fortiche started as a animation studio making music videos for League of Legends, and it might have been the first project was the introduction of the Jinx character, a video called Get Jinxed. The song is actually in the season, but it's her like riding a missile through the sky over Piltover or something like that. So it's
that is awesome.
Yeah, so I think and from what I got from the docuseries was like Fortiche was a really small team, and they scaled up to a full-scale animation studio for this show. Like, there were a lot of big risks taken to make this thing happen, and you can really feel the creative energy and the passion the whole way through, I think. But I will this season, more than season 1, in some ways is a little too ambitious. It's trying to pull off quite a lot in terms of story and theme, and it doesn't quite stick the landing on everything. I think when it comes to the emotional character beats, nailed across the board, but some of the other stuff, which we'll talk about in spoilers, they don't land quite as well. I don't agree. So in that sense, the season does feel a little bit rushed at points, but I don't agree with people who say we needed an entire third season. I don't think there's that much story here, but I think that was a little bit rushed, and I really think all they needed was about 40 more minutes. About 40 minutes of screen time, specifically in episodes 8 and 9. But we'll have to see back on that in spoilers. But and people might push back on that. It's like, oh, that's not enough. It's like, I think you're underestimating just how many scenes fit into 40 minutes. Like,
well, and with their style. Yeah, with their style, like blending the music, the animation together, like they can get it done. And when I think back to season 1, I kind of remember the episodes being even longer. I feel like they were like, maybe I'm just grasping at straws, at like maybe just thin air here, but I feel like they were like closer to an hour each or something like that.
I think a couple of them were 50 minutes, but most of them were about the same. Just having
and I think I think a lot of the episodes this season were a little bit shorter. I could be wrong, but you know, there's a lot, because I think that I agree with that sentiment a little bit, that it felt like they had a lot of irons in the fire this season, lots of different plot lines, and not all of them are going to get equal time in the in the sun. You know, and especially since like Vi and Jinx and Jace and Victor, they're like the core of the show. These 4 characters, I feel like.
And Caitlyn, I'd say they're
and Caitlyn's in there
like
too.
those are the central core, and then like right beneath them is Echo, who's almost as high up there, but I think those 5 really are.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So it's like it just feels like that there are some that did deserve a little bit more screen time. Like I think Mel's storyline, I wanted more of that because I found that one hypnotic. Like that one was very cool. I really wanted to learn more about this Black Rose and everything. And so I think that this time the dynamic between Vi and Jinx it isn't as central to the story this time around, but it's still there and it still does feel like the heart. I just think that they spread them out a little bit more, and it's good because we got to explore these other characters in greater depths. And overall that's a great plus. And this show, big recommendation from me for everyone.
Yeah, and I think like a good thing to remember too between season 1 and season 2, people always talk about this with stories, but we always feel the frustration every time it rears its head again. Endings are hard. Endings are really hard.
Yes.
Probably a lot easier to set up an interesting world and a lot of characters and start these arcs, but then you have to bring them all together. And then another thing, which we'll probably talk about in spoilers if we remember, is pacing, because you can wrap up every single character's storyline to a way that would be emotionally satisfying to that story, but then it might not be paced in a way where the overall episode or season is emotionally satisfying. And that is hard because and if we don't remember to talk about in spoilers, I'll just say like vaguely here, like there are a lot of interactions I would have liked to see, or things between a couple characters that cap off a story, but then it would have robbed a nice surprise or really powerful feeling that the show as is produced. So it's like, what, as a writer, what do you choose? Do you give everyone everything they might want, or do you potentially make some bummer sacrifices for a stronger whole? That's why it's called killing your darlings, right? In writing, it's like they probably left so many amazing scenes on the cutting room floor, but in most cases, it was probably the right decision.
Oh yeah, well, and you're exactly right. Like we said this before, like endings are hard. Yeah, and like, what do you decide to keep in the story? Like, it is such an impossible, difficult decision. But at the end of the day, you need to respect your employees who are making this for you and their time and their devotion. So it's like, maybe we could have had another 3 episodes or whatever, but no, it didn't need it.
But like we mentioned before, there are all these musical montage sequences this season, and I think they are a point of frustration for some people in the fan base, because there is a lot of character development and implied passage of time and important events that happen in them. I think some people probably wanted some of that character development to play out over the course of an episode or maybe 2, and a lot of dialogue scenes. And I get that. I did not feel that way, and I found those sequences really engaging because I was like really like watching and just seeing the micro expressions on all the characters' faces and inferring character development from them. But I could see how your mileage would vary if that style of storytelling just doesn't click with you, especially for this narrative. Like I get it, you know.
Sure. Well, like William Shakespeare said, brevity's the soul of wit. We don't see everything that happens in Hamlet, but that's because we don't need to.
Exactly.
You get what you need, and you don't need to see everything.
Yeah, and I think it's like the telling a story in this way, in this specific way, like musically and visually, rather than through dialogue and direct, not narrative, linear scenes. It asks more of you as a viewer, and I'm on board with that. I understand why, maybe they overdid it. Maybe they had too many music videos. I don't know. That's not my opinion, but overall, I can't recommend the show enough, man. I love it. It fucking rules. It's so cool.
Oh, it's so great.
Do you have any other non-spoiler thoughts, or should we jump into?
Let's jump in. Yeah.
All right.
And I totally agree. Can't recommend this show enough. It is phenomenal from every angle. Even if you've never played League of Legends, I've never played League of Legends, and I still love this show to death. It is so good.
I have since played some League of Legends. I'm more playing team fight tactics. It's a more casual, chill auto battler.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it is very funny in League because I'm new to League, right? But the matchmaking system of League of Legends does not know that I've played over 1,000 hours of Dota 2. So I'm getting matched. I'm getting matched with people who are like just learning the game, and it's like, huh, I'm just learning the game too, but I have ample experience with this type of game, so I'm doing
Yeah.
well.
You're like, okay, let's casually destroy them.
Exactly, but I'll be nice about it, which is
Yes.
rare for that game. But okay, let's talk about the animation.